This is the Savvy Investor radio show and podcast. For help with your retirement, schedule a 15-minute phone conversation with the team at ProStatus Financial Advisors today. Just call 866-597-1040 and at thesavvyinvestorradio.com.
Welcome back to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and Podcast with the team at ProStatus Financial. Ryan Herbert is here today. My name is Randy Cook, and each week we sit down here and talk through some of the issues of planning for retirement. And Ryan, one of the big ones out there is that stock market, and we see the headlines all the time. It's crazy how if the stock market is going up, everybody is going, I wonder when it's going to go down. And when the stock market's going down, they wonder, I wonder how far it's going to go down. It's like we're all fatalists when it comes to the stock market. But there are some encouraging and some discouraging headlines out there right now. Mark Zandi, who is a guy who's been watching the stock market for over 36 years. He works for Moody Analytics, and he's one of those economists that talks about the future of the market and what's going on out there right now. And he says that there's a big chance that we're going to go into a recession. There's a pretty good chance that this market is going to start moving backwards. And about 62% of Americans have money in some way in the stock market. Most of it is in 401k money. But it's weird how the stock market can go up and up and up and up, but yet there's a whole lot of people that are really suffering and, experiencing layoffs, and the economy just doesn't seem to fit with what's going on in the stock market. So I want to ask you this. Is the stock market a good gauge for the economy? Is the stock market a good gauge of how our retirement is going to go? And if it's not, what is a good metric as to our retirement is going to go well if it's not the stock market?
Well, it really depends on who you listen to, what news channel you listen to. Mm-hmm. Certainly, Trump views the stock market as evidence of how well the overall economy is doing. And it's interesting that Mark Zandi is just now saying this in 2026, when in 2020, it was very, very, very evident that the stock market and the overall economy became so severely disconnected because for years, there were certain underlying indicators that Mike and I looked at that really kind of, if you XYZ happened, this would happen in the market. Mm-hmm. And it pretty much happened. It wasn't really market predicting or market prognosticating, if you will, but, things you could look at that oftentimes something else would, if this happens, then this happens. Mm-hmm. And, so many times those things were happening in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 that those were happening, but the market wasn't reacting at all. It's kind of the same thing that we see now, where the other day, there was a new wave of attacks over in Iran, and the truce is suddenly off, and oil prices are skyrocketing. And a month ago, that caused the stock market to plummet. Mm-hmm. Now, stock market just hit a new high the other day. So it's so completely disconnected that it really drives home the importance of retirement planning, because how well or how poor the stock market is doing should not have an impact on your overall retirement. And one of the things that we show people when they come in the office is, if you had $1 million and you retired January 1 of 2000, and you said, I'm going to follow that age-old wisdom of, as long as I withdraw 5% of my money every single year, the market does 8 to 10% over time. That's what it's done for the last, 15, 20 years. Statistically speaking, I'll never run out of money. Well, what happened in 2000? The dot-com bubble happened. And then 2001 was a terrible year. 2002 was okay. 2003 was a terrible year. So you had 3 years almost in a row of really bad stock market. So the stock market's going down. I'm withdrawing 5%. Well, I'm not actually drawing 5% because the stock market's going down. I'm not getting the same thing. So now I'm going to have to sell off some of my portfolio every single year. So 3.5 years into retirement of retiring January 1st of 2000 and taking out 5%, my $1 million is now $456,000 and some change.
Wow.
That's going back to work, because now I'm not taking out 5%. I'm taking out more than 10% to get that $50,000 a year that I need. And so does the stock market have an impact on retirement? Absolutely. Should you have all that risk when it comes to your retirement? Absolutely not. One of the things that we talk about every single week is making sure that you have your income as safe and secure and as guaranteed as possible. Pretty much everyone's going to get Social Security. Some people have pensions. Social Security is guaranteed by the U.S. government. That's as safe and secure as it can be. And we can talk about, when it's going to run out of money and those types of things. But the government will just print more money and that income will still keep coming in. Pensions are pretty, they're backed by the company, and there is the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation to back that up, but not a lot of faith in that. But those are pretty secure income streams. And if you're not fortunate enough to have a pension or you need extra money, you need to create this income stream out of this retirement nest egg. And it's taking those steps, like I said, to make sure it's safe and secure so that when the stock market goes up 20%, I have the income coming in every single month. Conversely, if I experience a 2000, 2001, 2003, I still have the income coming in and I don't have to worry about, am I taking too much money out? Am I going to run out of money? I know that I've taken those steps to make sure my income is safe and secure as possible. And that is really what income planning happens to be. And if I take it a step further, if you look at the market, the S&P 500, January 1, 2000, December 31st, 2014, same exact level. The stock market went up, it went down, it went up, it went down, and it came right back to where it started. So if you were just to say, I'm a buy and hold investor, I'll put my money in the market, over a 14-year period, if you did that, you made zero money. You do not want your retirement to be reliant upon the stock market. No matter how well it's been doing over recent times, it can always pull back. Just like these economists, I joke that Harry Dent, really famous economist and demographer who Mike and I paid a lot of attention to for years and years and years, famously predicted the crash of 2008. Famously predicted, air quotes, because what they do is they come out and they say, the stock market's going to crash. The stock market's going to crash in 6 months. The stock market's going to crash in 6 months. Well, if you say it often enough and long enough, eventually when it happens, you'll have predicted it. And that's kind of what this Mark Zandi from Moody is saying is that, hey, the stock market's going to pull back. Well, absolutely, it can pull back. If you say it long enough, it's going to happen. And then you can say you predict it. But if that's all your prediction ever is, you're not really looking at the entire picture. If the stock market crashes, how protected is your retirement? And that's really your number one goal, is to make sure that no matter what happens in the market, I have the income I need. No matter what happens in the market, my day-to-day living does not change. Yeah, if I want to take out $30 or $40 or $50,000 for this magical cruise around the world, or take the kids to Disney World or a Disney cruise or something like that, maybe because the stock market crashes, it's not part of my monthly budget. Maybe we don't take it this year. Maybe we take it next year. But I still have food on the table. I still have a roof over my head. I still have a car to drive. And I have the lights on in my house. And I'm living the life I want. And that really is the goal to retirement, is to take that stress of the market out of your retirement.
That income that we talk about all the time, there is the metric that you should be looking at. What's coming in? How am I replacing my paycheck? What do I look like as far as my income in your retirement years? Ryan, when you take a look at the stock market and the reporting on the stock market, something happened about 20, 25 years ago when ESPN started doing 24-hour sports. And then they started doing 24-hour news. And then they started doing 24-hour financial news. And when you're doing 24-hour financial news, you're going to have a lot of talking heads on there. What are they going to talk about? They're going to speculate quite a bit. Do you think these guys who come on and say, I've seen this before, in 1969, we had these exact kind of situation, and this is what the market did. Do you believe that those kind of statements are reliable today? Because the economy that we have today is so different than what it was 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, that some of the things that they say sometimes I kind of look at with a raised eyebrow going, really? Are we the same now as what we were back then?
I think it's a lot of the statements and a lot of the articles that you'll see out there that are predicting 20% up, 20% down, market crashing, market's going to reach new highs. This is the next NVIDIA stock or whatever it happens to be. It's all clickbait. It's all
entertainment. Yeah,
it's entertainment, and that's kind of what my opinion is. It's all noise. Yes, there is validity to what they're saying, but history doesn't always repeat itself, especially when it comes to the stock market. Like I said, the market has become so disconnected from the economy. It used to be that once short-term interest rates were greater than long-term interest rates, it was, if this has happened, the stock market would drop 10 or 15%. If jobless claims were at a certain level compared to, a different indicator out there, the market would do this. Well, yes, the things that they're saying do have truth because history has shown us that's kind of what's out there, but it's all noise. And listening to the noise is not the way to approach retirement. It's not the way to go through retirement. Retirement should be something that you're enjoying. It shouldn't be work for you. You shouldn't have to always be looking at Yahoo Finance or CNBC or MSNBC or Wall Street Journal to look at, okay, here's what's happened in the stock market today. Here's what happened in the news. What's happened in my portfolio? That's not the way to approach retirement. The way to approach retirement is to sit down and think, here's how much money I need to have on a monthly basis. Is it $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month? Doesn't matter what that number actually is for you, but what is your true spending number? It's not a percentage of what you're making now or things like that. It's what are you actually spending? And that's what you're targeting in retirement. Once you know that number, then you can say to yourself, what are my known sources of income? I'm going to have Social Security. Do I have a pension? Do I have rental property? Do I have a small business that pays me some money? What are my sources of income? And then what is my shortage if I have a shortage? I'm bringing in $3,000 a month from Social Security and I'm spending $5,000 a month. Well, that means that we have to generate $2,000 a month from my investments to make my retirement number, to make my monthly number so I have everything I want to do on a monthly basis. And then it's really a question of how risky do I want that number to be? Do I want to have my money out there in the stock market where I'm always having to worry about the ups and downs of the market? I'm always having to worry about, what's happening over in Russia or what's happening in China or, what the current administration is doing? Or do I want to take all of that risk of the market and transfer it to somebody else? Transfer it to something like an insurance company where I can use an annuity where it's essentially like buying my own pension that says in exchange for X amount of dollars, they're going to give me that $2,000 a month every single month for the rest of my life and the rest of my spouse's life. Take that noise. That eliminates all that noise because great, stock market's going up 20% because, we did X, Y, and Z. Stock market's dropping 20% because of A, B, and C. I don't care what's going on in the market because I know every single month I have that $5,000 coming in. And that's one of the things I always try to express to people who come into the office is let's not think about the stock market for the next 30 minutes. Put that on the side. Yes, we're going to talk about it. Yes, it's important. Yes, your return. Yes, your risk is important in the stock market. But let's talk about your income. Because if the stock market goes up 20%, right? Are you spending more money? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. If the stock market drops 20%, are you going to spend less money? 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. Why have any of that noise going on in my retirement plan? If I know no matter what happens, I have my $5,000 a month, the stock market's up 20%, great. I feel wonderful because I made a bunch of money. Stock market's down 20%, well, I'm not super happy about that because I've lost money, but I know my income is protected. I have the income I need. That is the way to approach retirement, not worrying about the ups and downs of the market and all that financial noise out there in the news.
Such a great point. When you're out on a cruise or you're RVing across the country, you get to Nebraska, you look at a headline and it says a war broke out someplace and the stock market plummeted. Are you calling Ryan and going, am I okay? You want to know that you're okay when those things happen and be able to look at Ryan and say, okay, the market goes down 10%. Am I okay? Is my money still coming in? Do I have my paycheck? Am I going to be able to handle my monthly needs and still do the stuff I want to do? That's the kind of retirement plan that you want. Give the team at the Savvy Investor Radio Show and Podcast a call. At ProStatus Financial, the number is 866-597-1040. Use our website, thesavvyinvestorradio.com. There's a button there that says schedule a call. It basically is a no cost, no obligation look at your retirement. It's a conversation. Here's what I've done for retirement. Here's what I want to do. Here's when I want to retire. Here's my situation. Are there any gaps here? Can you help me with that? Let's have that conversation. thesavvyinvestorradio.com or 866-597-1040. And that is all the time that we have on the Savvy Investor Radio Show and Podcast for today. Ryan will give you the last word on this one.
This is Ryan Herbert. Thank you so much for listening to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and Podcast, and we'll see you, the Savvy Investor, next week.
Advisory services offered through ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, a registered investment advisor. Insurance licensed in Maryland. ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if ProStatus Financial Advisors Group is licensed in your state, please call 410-863-1040. ProStatus Group, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through representatives of ProStatus Financial Advisors Group.